Hello and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this pretty short and sweet video on the new Lethal Cosmetics eyeshadows. I picked up 4 of them from their latest release and we're going to swatch them on my eyes, on my hands, on my arm. Look at all the shifts, all the sparkles, see how good they are, compare them to the other shades, and I think that's going to be it. So if that sounds good to you, then please continue watching, subscribe if you like the video, and let's get to it. So I think Lethal did this release about a month ago. So this corner over here are all my shades from Lethal Cosmetics, and the new ones are these 3 over here and this one. From left to right, they are Supernova, Hyperspace, Infinity, and Bismuth. These 3 are Multichromes, and this one is a Holographic shade. I did do a separate short on this one, but I will also swatch it. So that's what we're working with here. So sorry if you could hear all the students outside. It's introduction week, so it's very busy and very loud. I think it should be better now. Anyway, let's get to swatching. I'll scooch in a little bit closer, and I don't have anything on my eyes. I think that should work fine. So let's start with Supernova. This is what it looks like. On my finger you can already see that it has a lot of turquoise and purple. It's definitely more of a smooth formula. I personally really like the multichromes that are very sparkly, but I have to say the shade is really beautiful. You can definitely see the blue, like a sky blue to a lavender, with somewhat of a deeper purple base, a little bit of gray in there. I think this is a really pretty one. So let's put it all over my eye. Oh, you know what? There's actually a lot more sparkle in here than I thought. So I'm working with mostly natural light, but I do keep one desktop light over there and my ring light, which I don't put very bright, but it's just to counteract the shadows. And I think that in that lighting, this actually looks pretty sparkly, which is nice. I think you can definitely see all the different colors on my eyes. So let's go into the next one, which is Hyperspace, the green shade. Oh wow. If this is not a mermaid shade, I don't know what is. There's some teal in there, some lime green, some yellow. This is such a beautiful shade, and if I look at it in real life, I definitely see some blue as well, like almost there. I captured it, like almost a dark blue, or at least like a very bright blue. And again, it doesn't seem that sparkly on my hand, but let's see what it does on the eyes. And I love all of these new shades because they're bright, but they're a little bit less dark. A lot of these bright shades have black bases, which just doesn't really fit my makeup aesthetic, and it also doesn't really fit my skin tone. I like these types of shades a lot more, and you can definitely still see the shift. If I had to compare, I think the purple one is more sparkly, but this green one is also really pretty. So let's take both of these off. Okay, for the last multichrome we have Infinity, and I was really excited about this one because I love a yellow shade, and you don't get a lot of yellows usually. So I'd say this has less of a shift, but if there is one, it's sort of a lime green shift. So let's put it here. Oh, actually, when I see it on my hand, the shift becomes a little bit more obvious. Yeah, there's definitely still, there's some green in there. This shade has much less of a base color. So I think in some lightings, you're not even going to see much of a color. but it is quite sparkly, especially when I put it on my eyes. So far, I've not seen any shade that truly reminds me of other Lethal shades. And also, the colors may remind me a little bit of other shades from Terra Moons or Cleona, but Lethal has its own texture. It's thin, it's not flaky, but it is a little bit more sparkly. So it looks a little bit like it's in between those other two brands, but it feels a lot more smooth and less heavy. I really like this yellow shade. Like I said, you see a little bit less of a shift with this one. And then finally, let's try the holographic shade again. This is called Bismuth. And this is a different type of texture. It's very loosely pressed. And honestly, like this on my finger, it doesn't look like much. It looks like it's hardly a metallic. It just looks like a very crusty satin shade. But when you put it on the eyes, and especially when you put a light on top of it, it does get some really nice sparkle. And the fun thing with this shade, which is, I believe, what makes it holographic, is that the sparkles aren't all the same color, but they're very different. The sparkles steal the show with this shade. Oh, let me also swatch it on my hand. Like that, it looks very pretty. And also when I tilt my head towards the light, it is a very pretty shade, but only when you put a light on top of it. I feel like it's slightly disappointing. But then again, if I look in my mirror over here, where I have the light right above it, it does look really pretty. I think it's mainly on camera that it doesn't really show a lot. But if you look at these swatches, this one is definitely the most sparkly out of all of them. So there you have it, Bismuth, Infinity, Hyperspace, and Supernova. And I can show a picture of the other shades that were released. I'm not really sure how many there were. There are definitely a lot of regular metallics, stunning metallics, but they seem very similar to what I have in my Minka palette from Adept. So I wasn't really interested in that. And there are a couple of more multichromes. And let me quickly share a couple of thoughts that I have about the formula. So I feel like the formula of these is similar to the top shades over here, which are the original black-based multichromes, but there's a little bit more sparkle in there. And of course, like there's a different base color. But texture-wise, they're very smooth. I personally really like the shade called again Parsec, which is very sparkly and gritty, but doesn't really feel heavy, but it is very, it has an intense sparkle. And this one, I think it's called Antimatter, has the same sort of texture. And these are from their newer multichrome line. And with this latest release, I feel like they sort of went in between, mostly towards the first. It's weird because when I look at my hand like this, that shade is so stunning, but I honestly feel like it doesn't look that interesting when you put it on the eyes. I haven't completely made up my mind about that. It is more affordable than the multi. So with those eye swatches out of the way, I'm going to do a quick eyeshadow look using a Lethal Cosmetics palette that I have and one of these or two of these multichromes. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. I cleaned up my eyes and my hand as well as I could. There's definitely some sparkle remaining from that holographic shade. So if that's a concern of yours, then I wouldn't recommend that one. So the palette that I want to pair with these multichromes is the After Dark palette. This is a couple of years old. I think their formulas have really changed since then, but I'm mainly going to use it for the mattes. So this was their fun 90s inspired palette that I once named the Ultimate Spring palette. I still like it, especially really like the intensity of these mattes. I like the fact that there's a white. I think we can have some fun with this. So my idea is to do the yellow shade and the green shade next to each other. So let's put some mattes in that would pair well with those. I'm going to start with this turquoise shade with a slightly stained, what else is new, blending brush. You see how much pigment there is. These mattes are a little bit dry, but I think they still build well. And they are very pigmented. Definitely on camera, it looks really intense. I'm also putting this underneath my lower lash line. Now the beauty is I'm going to really wipe off this brush on the back of my hand. And I'm going to soften it up using the white. Which you could blend those shades before you apply them, but this works equally well. And this white is really strong. I'm doing the same thing underneath the lower lash line. I think this may be the best white matte shade that I have. And I have a couple of them in different palettes. This is definitely the most intense one. But that's okay, it's going to be partially covered up by my concealer. I think that's going to be all I'm going to do. Was a little bit basic, but I did announce that it would be. So next up, I think I'm just going to apply all three multichromes. So I'm going to start with the yellow one, which was called Infinity. I just want to see how well they work together. And I think that the three shades just look really pretty next to each other. So this is Infinity. Like I suspected, it's not fully opaque. I feel like you can definitely see a little bit of that turquoise matte that I put underneath. I wonder, could this shade maybe be light enough as an inner corner? I don't think so. I'm going to put something else in my inner corner. I am going to take this out slightly diagonal, blend it out with the other brush. And I'm just wiping off the same brush because this is the perfect brush for stuff like this. And I'm going into the second shade, which is called Hyperspace. And this is the green one. Okay, that looks really pretty. And then in the outer corner, I'm going to put Supernova, the purple shade, which is definitely the deepest of the three. And with the tip of my brush, I'm also putting Supernova along the lower lash line, focusing it on the outer half. And just a quick blend with the original fluffy brush, et voila! I think this looks really nice. It's going to look even nicer after I apply some lashes and the rest of my makeup. I'll go ahead and do that and I'll show you the finished look in just a second. So I'm back. This is my finished look. I think it looks pretty nice. I feel like this is the summer look that I've been waiting to create all summer. I have to say, in real life, it looks quite a bit more pretty than it does on camera. I like the colors on camera, definitely. You can see the shifts. Let me do like this. But the only thing that truly sparkles on camera are my inner corners, and those are from the Noctilucent palette. But in real life, I can definitely see some sparkle on my eyelids as well. These are not my most favorite multichromes, I'll just be honest. I wish they were a little bit more sparkly. But they are truly pretty colors. Like this look, I love it a lot. So yes, it's a little bit less sparkly, but it's also way less flaky than, for instance, my Terra Moon shades are. So it's a pick and choose. If you like this type of look, then definitely go for it. And otherwise, maybe get inspired by something. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was enjoyable. Subscribe if you did like it, and I'll see you in the next one.